Hey folks, it's Amy from Colorado Mountain Living, and we are finally emerging out of the deep freeze of winter. In the past 3 weeks, we've had over 3 feet of snowfall. It's kind of like the last hurrah for winter, right, up in the mountains. Now that the temperatures are sustained in the above 50-degree range with the strong mountain sun, those piles of snow are melting fast. So I want to take you around the homestead and kind of show you what it's looking like with all the snow melt and what's happening. Particularly looking at the driveway. We're going to take an in-depth look at the driveway, compare it to the road, and then show you some key features on the property that are being affected by the snow melt as well. So one of the first areas to clear out is the top of the driveway here. You can just see that there's hardly any snow left on the driveway. It's more to the outskirts, but what we're evaluating are the lingering spots of pooled water. There's a little bit of a spot there by Vigo at the top of the rock wall, retaining wall. There's just a little bit of a low spot there, so that can be filled in. There's still some snow melt coming off of the roof here, and you can tell by the shadow that there's still a lot of lingering snow right in front of the steps there. But you can see with the slope, there's just a gradual grade that all of this area is really dry until you get to the other side of the truck here and you get a little bit of pooled water. So this is an area that we can grade down even further to try to prevent the pooling of the water here. But in all of the other spots on the driveway that have dried out, it's very, very firm. Doesn't seem to be a problem as far as softness. So as you get more, now yesterday you can see some tire tracks from yesterday, and where there's moisture and there's a little bit of, you could see sort of the ice crystals that were in place, kind of muddy, but these areas that are soft, as soon as they dry out, they turn into areas that are pretty hard. And if you look to the edges of the driveway here, you can see that there's already like a natural place for the water to collect off the driveway around the edges. So, it tends to pool here, but it seems to drain down the hill this way, and that's towards the garden beds. Or it will drain, once it gets past the well over there, it'll drain down the driveway. So one thing we could do to encourage drainage is to just dig a little bit more of a trench along the driveway to encourage that water to move instead of to pool in one spot. So let's take a little further look down the driveway, especially down by the geocell on the hillside, to see how that part of the driveway is holding up. All right, so we're on the top corner of the driveway now. This is where the geocell starts. So let's take a look to see how it's holding up on the surface. So you can see some tire tracks. This is from the tractor. And there's just a little bit of uneven surface here. So this will improve once we use some box grading on this area. We can definitely improve this and smooth it out. But what I'm noticing is I'm not seeing any geocell sticking through this corner so far. Oh, I lied. I see the outlines of one. That's the outline of one triangle, one diamond of it. And here's the outline of another one right there. So you can see the outlines of it. What are you doing? Playing in the snow? All right, so this is one area where I could see more webbing than any other, and right on this sharp incline, you can see the outlines of the geocell. So there may be a little bit of movement on the webbing, but you can see those diamonds for sure right there. You can see looking further down the driveway, there's definitely some ruts in there from just our vehicles going up and down the driveway when it's soft. So that will definitely improve with some grading, and I think what we could do to improve it even more is to put more gravel down on top of it even. You can see the side of the driveway here where there's more drainage. and it's kind of following along the side of the driveway. It's no longer going into the driveway because we've built up enough crown on the sides of the driveway. So it's not, the water's not coming back into the middle of the driveway anymore like it was 3 years ago. You know, 3 years ago we had rivers running down the middle of the driveway, but now the water is staying off of it and running in its own little stream alongside of it. This side of the driveway pitches down quite a bit, and because there's not a slope or a hillside, it slopes this way, that we don't see any water accumulation on this side. So this side's not a problem. But this is the one area where I see the most geocell sticking out. This is, like I said, right in the middle at the top of the hill. And you can see more webbing here. So there was probably a little bit of displacement right there. That's the most that we've seen with the driveway being in its soft state. But like I said, we can just go ahead, grade it, fill it back in. But overall, it seems to be doing really well in the rest of the driveway. I mean, the geocell goes all the way to the bottom of this hill. So I think you can see here in the tire tracks, we've got some outline of the geocell. So what I think the geocell is helping with is preventing additional spreading of the soft driveway, right? So you can see some ruts on this side, but the spread is pretty much stopped at the top level of the geocell. It doesn't go any lower than that. Well, it looks like the trailer finally emerged from all of the snow. That was about completely buried 2 weeks ago. So I think the bottom line is to acknowledge that yes, the driveway does get soft as the surface is thawing out and the moisture is going into the gravel base. So that really does get soft in the spring. I don't know how there's another way to prevent that from happening unless you have a bone dry driveway and there's never any snow on it. But what's fortunate is that the geocell seems to protect it from really moving completely off the driveway. So what that enables us to do is that we can use a box grader, regrade the driveway after it completely dries out, and we can redistribute some of that movement of the gravel base that's on there right now. All right, we're looking at the bottom of the driveway now. I think I found our biggest ridge right here. This must have been really soft when Brian drove through, but got a 3-inch high ridge right there. And remember earlier in the fall where Brian had moved the trench from the very edge of the driveway about 3 feet in. So all of the snow is still melting, but we're not, there's a little bit more to go before we see the results of that trenching project. So this is probably the most amount of wetness on the driveway. All right, so we're looking at the end of the driveway here, folks, and I wanted to show you the difference between our driveway and the road. Do you hear any of that water sound? Oh, hear some. So this is coming out of the culvert at the end of our driveway. Look at some of these ruts here. It's basically a raging river. Our road is a raging river of melting snow. And just look how soft all that is. I mean, it's fully liquid all the way down the middle of the road. Just the entire road is just raging like a river. You can see where the road grader pushes up half the road right there into the, when it's plowing out. So I have to say that our driveway is looking pretty good compared to the road status. Well, folks, that's the beginnings of what it's starting to look like as we emerge from the snow of the winter. And I think there's still so much snow right now, it's just hard to see how everything's shaping up. But I guarantee that by the end of next week, it's probably all going to be gone. So we have got some continuation of high 50-degree weather, maybe 60-degree weather, and then the sun, direct sun, is going to be making fast work of all of this snow melting. So we'll be able to see really what things are looking like underneath. But it's definitely encouraging to see how well the driveway has held up. over the entire course of the winter and the multiple freeze and thaw cycles. I think this is our last big thaw cycle. If we get additional snow, the ground is probably going to be thawed at that point. So it's thawing out right now. At least the surface of a lot of the driveway is dried. So once we get a full drying of all of the gravel, then we'll regrade it and then consider adding an additional layer of gravel later on this summer. But it's definitely a major improvement compared to 3 years ago when we were driving up rivers of mud just like the county road that we're seeing right now. So a huge improvement with the addition of the gravel and the geocell, I think. Well folks, I'm in front of the beehives and it's buzzing over here. I mean, gosh, look at hive number 1. There's a lot of activity behind me on hive number 1. I think they are ready for spring too. So warm temperatures and they're flying outside the hives. I think it might be warm enough tomorrow to actually go in the hive, and I can put some feeders in there to help them out. So definitely nice to see activity at all 3 hives. We've got to melt a little bit more snow before we can use the box grader. It's kind of buried still. You know, dog owners, the other sign of spring, there's those poop piles everywhere. It's smelling fragrant. This was worth every penny this winter. Definitely got our money's worth out of the big snowblower. Thanks, Woodmax. It was cool to see that big pile of mulch emerging. At least I know where that is now. Brian had blown a lot of the snow from the driveway over here as it slopes down towards the garden beds, and you can see some of the drainage right here. So it's kind of heading towards a septic field. That'd be a great way to just keep it diverted from landing back here. Because about a month ago we had that problem where once all the snow melted, we were seeing some pooling of the water right in front of the garden beds. So we'll have to address that after we can get the backhoe attachment out of the snow bank. So definitely a lot of moisture. So yeah, at this point there's no way to dig any trenches. The tractor's up there, we're buried in snow down here, and the backhoe attachment is buried in the snow as well. So hopefully by next year we'll have the garage / shed, whatever we end up building, have a place to shelter the tractor a little bit better and tractor implements a little bit better. Well, if you want to play it, you need to bring it back here so I can throw it. Well, as much snow that has melted, there's still a lot more snow to be melted away. We have pretty much full snow coverage all on our property here, and it's about 6 to 8 inches deep in spots. Pretty much still. But that chair's free. That was buried up to the seat last weekend. We've got a lot of cleanup to do once the snow melts. Well, that's how things are shaping up around here, folks. I'm glad to see the bees are out and seeing just signs of life starting to emerge everywhere. So take care, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.